Back in 1967, a very well-known show called Star Trek, the original series, aired this episode called Plato's Stepchildren. Now, in a particular episode, something very interesting, something groundbreaking, and something very fundamental to Star Trek happened. It was a kiss between Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura. Now, although this kiss was based on the situation, forced, right, under telekinetic manipulation, right? Nonetheless, there were people around the world who got a chance to see, especially in the United States, the first interracial kiss. Now, it wasn't necessarily the first interracial kiss that was televised, but it was the first interracial kiss on a well-known, widely viewed science fiction show. You guys got to also understand what was going on in the United States at this particular time. It was about 2 years past the time where they finally legalized interracial marriage. Because before then, to be married interracially was considered illegal. It was also the midst of the civil rights movement. Now, the thing is that the network and the executives really didn't want to televise, to air this particular kiss. And they kind of fought back a lot. But the thing is that during filming, William Shatner and Uhura basically did one correct take and then kind of messed their face up and made different faces to mess up the subsequent takes so that the studio would be forced to use the only good footage, which was the good kiss. Captain Kirk is always a G. Thing is, after that episode aired, there were a few people who decided to write certain, articles and newspapers and things of that nature, talking about how evil Star Trek was and how bad it had become and how it betrayed its roots and everything like that. But on the flip side, that particular episode of Star Trek received the most fan mail out of any episode of Star Trek of the original series. And that fan mail was very positive. Now, there were a lot of people who had, like I said, very bad viewpoints about seeing a white man kiss a black lady. Oh, we had to cover the eyes of our children. But for quite a few other individuals, this was inspiring because not only did we have a black woman who was competent, honorable, great at her job, and stood toe to toe with anybody else who was on the bridge, but she was a senior bridge officer and wasn't portrayed in any stereotypes. She was a proud Swahili woman. But these were the biases and bigotry of the time. Yes, you can have different races exist in the science fiction show, but they had to conform to certain stereotypes, not be the main characters, and basically be in the background. Star Trek was always trying to put an end to that, to try to change people's perceptions. Even when Captain Sisko, my very good friend, took command of Deep Space Nine, his first appearance was not as a captain, but as a commander. And his first appearance in Star Trek was marred by some as, oh, what we have a black captain. Like, it's not, this is not my Star Trek. This is not the Star Trek I'm used to. And yet, 20 years later, Deep Space Nine is by far considered one of the best series of Star Trek. It amazes me that people still have these views today. And that was the thing that bothered me when I watched the holodeck, because something very interesting happened in this particular seventh hollow image, and that was the kiss. But before I get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the cadets. I'm actually starting to like the character of Caleb. They're toning him down a whole lot. He's starting to act a lot more professional and more easygoing. The thing is that I'm finding it a little interesting how they're starting to stray away from his main reason of being in Starfleet, which is to find his mother. And then the relationship that he's building with Genesis, who we get to know a little bit more about, what's driving her, what's motivating her to always try to be the best at what she does. We get to learn a lot more about Remy, that he's not just a one-dimensional, bully type character, right? That he has, depth to him. He has dimension, all right? There's a reason why he seems so arrogant, because he was basically a prince set to be a king, all right? A person who represented his people. He had a lot of honor and duty and destiny behind him, that he felt he had to, a road and different points that he had to hit. And it's interesting to see, okay, how that's starting to break down based on him trying to go and, with what he truly is trying to figure himself out, basically. We even get to go into how him and Jaden, because they seem to have a little bit of will they, won't they type of thing going on. But Jaden is with the other dude from the War College right now who, basically, I think something is going to end up happening to him. This whole episode lived up to the theme of support and endorsement. Everywhere you look, there was supporting, fellow cadets, whether whether you're trying to take the blame, or supporting them to be on the captain's track, or endorsing them to be, great, to be married, and, representations of a king and everything like that. And who we end up not endorsing, because we know that this is not the path that they are meant to be on. And again, all of those themes I could get behind, except for that kiss. And why is it? Over the years, I've seen many different hollow reports, totaling around 938 to around 983. And throughout all of those hollow tapes of different missions, there's always been some type of kissing. There's been kissing for friends, kissing of androids, kissing of different aliens, aliens kissing each other, genderless kisses, kisses of subterfuges, kisses to just get the mission done, kisses of friendship and family, heterosexual kisses, even woman-on-woman kisses. But why did this bother me so? Why was it this particular time, this particular kiss, that bothered me? I thought about that hollow image a lot. And I figured, well, it couldn't be the fact that it was male on male kissing, because I'm above such things. I'm a Starfleet officer, not only a Starfleet officer, but a captain in Starfleet. I am above such things, right? Being raised on the south side of Chicago in the 70s even, there were certain ideologies and things from the environment that I was raised basically to believe. One of those things was the idea of what a family was. A mother, father, some kids. And these beliefs were galvanized by not only the family, but the neighborhood, the church, school. When I was growing up, it was commonplace to ridicule a man who had feminine traits. I should know, because I had several family members who had to remain in the closet because of threat, or even worse. Now, around this time is when I started watching Star Trek, the original series, with my dad. Eventually, I seen that kiss. My father explained to me the importance of that kiss, how it broke molds, how it's supposed to move society forward. Father explained to me the importance of that kiss, how it broke molds, how it had never been done, how Star Trek was so progressive in moving, humanity forward and showing humanity in a different light without all the bigotry and racism. I fell in love with Trek at that moment. It was ahead of its time, representing the best of us and what we could be if we stood for the least of us, the good of the many. But I didn't think that answered properly why it bothered me so. I decided maybe it went against canon, because that's not something that Klingons did. We've never seen a Klingon that was, but still, why did that kiss bother me so? I decided it must be because it breaks canon. We've never seen a Klingon with that particular ideology, with that particular attraction in canon after more than 60 plus years. Klingons were always displayed as warriors. But then I realized, wait a minute, that's not necessarily true at all. We've had Klingon warriors, we've had Klingon doctors, ambassadors, babysitters, butlers, we've had nannies, right? We've had Klingon, like engineers and scientists. We've had all Klingon hybrids, right? And we've had Klingons that laughed, Klingons that didn't laugh, Klingons that was just Klingons. We've even had Klingons that decided to become traitors and ally with the Romulans. Like, think of that. What does that tell us about the Klingons? That the Klingons are just as diverse as humans are. And would you believe it? That besides Romulans being the real first antagonist shown in Star Trek canon, the Klingons were the second true antagonist of Starfleet shown in canon. And we know far more about Klingon culture than we know anything about the Romulan culture. But as a Starfleet officer, examination and critical thinking is still the key, because knowing that this kiss shouldn't have bothered me, so what was it? And after consideration, I figured that in some way I was betraying what it meant to be a Starfleet officer, that in some way I still had some things that I needed to address. I guess in the end, as a Starfleet officer, it really doesn't matter if it bothered me or not. What does matter is there was someone sitting around their TV at the exact moment that they were watching that. They seen that, and they felt just as inspired as I did when I seen my first Star Trek kiss. Anyway, computer, delete that entire message.